let's show you some declassified. Oh no, before that, let me explain it. They formed a elite squadron, 617 Squadron. This is the squadron wing commander, Guy Gibson. He's very inventive, okay? That's his team. These are all real person. Okay, and now this is a declassified...
Barnes-Wallis now needed to test his idea on a larger scale and managed to obtain the use of a testing tank at the National Physical Laboratory in Teddington. His theory was that a spherical bomb could be made to bounce across water. The crucial discovery, not by Wallis but a colleague, was that backspin would help the bomb skip over the water, jumping any defensive barriers. After hitting its target, backspin would draw the bomb against the dam wall as it sank, then exploded. Just a few days before the night of the May full moon, 617 Squadron and their cylindrical upkeep bombs were beginning to perform well, to the delight of Wallis and his team.
How to adjust the height, the altitude of the airplane to 60 feet? You need something to measure the height, the altitude. At that time, there's no GPS. You don't forget that, okay? The only instrument is called barometer. Use the difference of air pressure to determine the height, which is not very accurate. Certainly cannot make any distinction between 60 feet and 62 feet, okay? So what they could do is training, and training. So after months and months of training, the mission is due, because if you have to do it before May, otherwise the water level will be too low. So they are given a time off, and they went to London Theatre to relax, okay? And on stage there are dancer, singer, and two spotlight was tracking the motion of the singer. Well, most people are just relaxing. Guy Gibson paid attention to the change of the projection arrow when the dancer moved around, you know. They have to track the dancer in motion. But in his mind, his imagery, he saw something else. Eureka. Do you agree that's a solution? Just attach to spotlight on the airplane and adjust the angle so that when the two beams overlap, it's exactly 60 feet. But of course, you need a little bit modification. The principle, this is the principle. To see complete overlap is hard. So they change it to when the two circles attach each other, that will be the right height. So that will work just as well. That's picture-based reasoning. Let you see the similarity between the two, and you recognize the principle that can be used. That's picture-based reasoning. If they use rule-based reasoning, you have to go to the library, you have to come up with the right keyword. The chances that they couldn't get it, okay? You have to get it by picture-based reasoning. Now, I got it by rule-based reasoning. I searched the library book, I found 2 books, okay?
I'm going into attack. Stand by to come into your water when I tell you.
See, the two beam comes together.
Gunners ready. Coming up, ma'am.
There's the check the distance, as well as the height.
230.
The two circles come together.
235. Stand by to pull me out of the thing if I get hit. Steady. 240. Steady. Hold it, steady. 239. Hold it. 240. Hold it. 235.
saw this movie in high school, actually against school rules. I did not regret, okay? But of course I did not remember everything. This is the only thing that I remember years after. And recognize this as a good teaching subject, okay? Now, let's try this, everybody try, okay? You might have seen this, but it doesn't matter because it's fun. If you, this is a race, a marathon, and you catch up and move past the number 2 racer in marathon race, what is your new rank? Okay? And I'm sure some of you would come up with the right answer, some of you would come up with the answer which looked right but actually not right. Let's analyze it. Okay, this is not a test. I just want to analyze. If you use rule-based reasoning, you could come up with the wrong answer, okay? This is one of the rules. Since you now rank higher than number 2 racer, you must be number 1, and I believe many of you would not agree. Now, if you think in picture, can you do it? Close your eye, you're number 3, so there are 2 persons ahead of you, right? And you catch up the number 2 and pass him. And you're ahead of the number 2, but there's still 1 person ahead of you. So the correct answer is number 2. Why did this went wrong? The reason this logic, it's logic, all right. The reason this logic went wrong is that number is a dynamic assignment. When you pass number 2, you too exchange numbers. You substitute him, the number, original number 2 as number 2, and the number 2 became number 3. It's dynamic, and if you think in rule, you don't see this dynamic change. But if you think in picture, it's clear. All right? That may not be very useful, but because it's just fun, for fun. But this does not mean rule-based reasoning is always wrong, because if you use this rule, use the replacement rule, you now pass the number 2 and you replace the position of number 2, so you rank the number 2. If you use replacement rule, it could be correct. Okay, rule-based reasoning is not always wrong. Okay? Now, the second part of the problem. Actually, it's in the internet. I don't know the author, but I got it from 2 different friends. Anyway, now, it's the same marathon, and you catch up and move past the last racer in a marathon race. What is your new rank? Try it carefully. In fact, I tried this on a student who had to repeat a class, okay? So, it's not student with a good mark, but I want her to try all 3 approaches. I said, since the rule number 2 works, why don't you try rule number 2? Let's try rule number 2. If you pass the last racer, you exchange position with him, so you replace him. You replace his position, so your new rank is the last. You know it's wrong. Obvious. Everybody agrees it's wrong. Okay, I say, now you try rule number 1, which failed the first time, but it may work the second time. You rank higher than the last racer, so your rank is second to the last. And she said, yeah, this is my answer. It makes sense. I said, are you sure? I said, sure. I said, why don't you close your eye and imagine yourself and the last racer ahead of you, and you try to pass this racer. Try by closing your eye. And she did it. And she was quiet for a few seconds, maybe 5 or 6 seconds, and suddenly she woke up in a little jerk. She said, I don't have an answer to this question. I said, why? I said, in order to pass the last racer, I must stay behind this last racer, try to pass him. Then suddenly, from the picture, I realized it was I that's the last racer, not this guy. So it's impossible to pass the last racer. So this problem has no answers. Okay? It's in the internet, which is an answer, but the internet did not explain. So I explained for you. in terms of the two types of thinking. And that lets you appreciate the two types of thinking. That is not to say picture-based reasoning is never wrong. In fact, it has its own pitfall. Didn't I say there's a fault tolerant, distorted? It may not work. In fact, some people see genius made more discovery, they also make more mistake. Because picture-based reasoning can be a mistake, so you still have to verify it with logic. So, my recommendation, use both for any problem that you encounter, even in real life. Try both, okay? And then you eliminate a lot of mistake, so-called careless mistake. Those problems, if you make a mistake, it's careless. Because if you try hard enough, you will find the right answer, so it's not a big deal. Now I want to try this. I bought this in 1977. Regret, I just bought one, $13 US. In hindsight, I would buy 5, or maybe even 10. It's gone. See, to remove this red wire without cutting it, okay? Without cutting it. Not everyone can solve this problem. How about this? Slightly easier. How about this? I would say almost anyone can solve this puzzle. So this puzzle was 3 degrees of difficulty. And I tried on an average student in Changhua. This. And she tried after 2 minutes. She gave up. That's normal. 2 minutes is about the time. Okay? Then I explained it the way I'm going to explain next. And then she tried again, and it worked like a charm without any hesitation. Very straightforward. I'm done this while. The strange thing is, the second time she couldn't do it. Now, let me explain before I give you the answer why the second time she couldn't do it. Okay, let's try Tesla's technique. Tesla said that he could do things without actually doing it by imagination. It's not that hard. Try this. I have to do it by actually showing it, but you do it in your own imagination. Put it back in. To do that, I'm sure 100% of people can do it by imagination. But can you do it inside from the most difficult position? It's still possible, but you have to understand something first. You have to analyze this puzzle. When we solve a problem, we always try to reduce it to something simple. And it's better if the simple one already has an answer. Okay? So if you take a look at this, the inspection, and now you must have something called fault tolerance. Try to ignore any distortion. Look at this. You see a circle and a post. Circle, a ring and a post, a ring and post, a ring and a post. This is the neck, a post, and a ring. And this is the saddle. You turn it 90 degrees. Is that true? There's a ring and a post. So you recognize the similarity. It's not identical, of course. Then you know this is a 3-in-1 puzzle. 3-in-1 puzzle. If you can do the left-hand side one, you can try to make some inference. Okay? Now let me do this one by explaining. This one you know. To slide from behind the post, pass over the top, and pull it out from the front. But you did it already, right? And you look for what mathematicians call 1-to-1 correspondence, or look for the counterpart. This corresponds to that. This ring corresponds to that. So if you are here and you want to do something similar, what would you do? slide this wire behind the neck through this ring, pass over the top of the head, and hope it come out, right? But it won't come out because there's some obstacle. Actually, what you want to do is you want to bring this to that position. Because if you can do that, you already knew the answer. So go over the head, but the wire comes to here and not here. So you look at it, wow, in order to be there, I have to go back, right? Just the reverse. You did it? Can you do it by imagination? Slide this through while on the top, and it come here. Slide through this, and come over this top, and it'll be there. Not that hard, right? But of course, you have to think in picture. You have to recognize the similarity. Okay? And you have to try to tell yourself, it's not that hard, not that hard. All right? So if you can move from this to here, how do you move from here to here? It's similar, but I won't do it. And if you want to do it now, be my guest. Of course, you have to slide through this, try to come to this post. But you was struck by this, so you have to come in. But you are struck by this, so you have to go in and out, and in and out, and do it. Okay? So it's a 3-in-1 puzzle. If you use rule-based, unless you know the rule, but the rule is so hard to remember. Like, tying a tie, I can do it, but I cannot remember the rule. Now, I have to see how I tie it to come up with the rule, then I forgot the rule. Okay, then let me see. This is the simplest. This is one stage, and you know how to do it, even by imagination, right? That's 2 stage. Oh, the one I have it, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the same 3-stage things, okay? I bought these puzzle in Time Transfer Science Museum, and I bought more than a dozen, and my wife was very upset. She said, why do you buy so many similar puzzles? I said, ikang dopen. Do you understand what I mean by ikang dopen? This is the educational policy for having one topic with many versions of books. And that didn't work very well because the parent complained. In the past, the student has to memorize 1 textbook. Now you have 5 versions, 5 textbooks, 10 versions, 10. Okay, it's a burden. No, it doesn't mean that. If you know how to do one, you know how to do the rest. Same principle. Okay, that's also simple. So see, many variations. This is even symmetrical, but same principle. Okay? This one has something in addition. But when you're already familiar with something, then you can figure it out, okay? This is a 2 interesting one. Okay? The one at the bottom has 1 more element on it. And I try this out, and I explain why do I explain it, okay? That one, take 50 steps to take it out. Minimum, okay? 50 steps to take it, put it back. Well, let me show you. Wait a minute. Oh no, I don't have it with me. Anyway, 50 steps out, 50 steps in. And one day I thought, well, I'm going to take serial picture, with digital camera. And then I have to slow down to take picture, right? At one point, I forgot whether I was moving forward or backward. So I got stuck. Then automatically I try to recall what I did, what I had just done. And then once I recall, I got lost. And I knew it was wrong to try to recall the rule. It's to go back to picture and try to do it, improvise it without following any rule. That's impossible. Like people on drug need to be detoxified. So, in desperation, I went to sleep. When I woke up, I recovered. And it was a horrifying personal experience. It's the same experience someone who occasionally got hooked by a drug and had to struggle to get it out. Now, let me explain why the student couldn't do it the second time. Because the first time, it was the first. And I already explained. So she trusts herself and tried to do it, tried to figure out like improvisation. The second time, she tried to recall what he had just done a few minutes ago, and he couldn't remember. No one could. You know, especially this 50 step, it's impossible to remember. You know, I managed to take serious pictures. That's why I counted as 50 steps, you know. Otherwise, how do I know? So this is the problem in education. And I think the policymaker did not understand it. It's a good policy, but you have to come up with something. You have to train students to think in picture. Without that, it's guaranteed failure. It's guaranteed failure. And they come up with this 12 years of compulsive education. And I think this is just timely to rescue those students. Without this, I think it's going to be a disaster. Because that 12 years of compulsive education, there are new kind of tests that require students to improvise. You cannot memorize. You cannot just go to a, what do you call, 补习班. It won't work. You have to improvise. Okay? So that's the solution. Okay, I want to say this because in the handout you can read it. Now I want to talk about this very controversial topic. I still want to have some time left for moving. Serendipity. It's a foreign word. It's coined in the 19th century by Walpole because Prince Serendip of India seems to be very creative. Okay, see, this is the picture of the princess writing. Okay, serendipity means you make discovery by accident. Like you have an experimental failure, most people think it's a failure, but you see a new opportunity. So for that, Louis Pasteur has this punchline. He said, in the field of observation, chance favor only the prepared mind. What is prepared mind? The non-elite school, they think prepared mind is simply know better, know more, work harder, more motivated, and so on and so on. That, of course, is bullshit, okay? The most famous story about serendipity is Alexander Fleming. He tried to discover some medicine that could kill all kinds of bacteria. Because he was the First World War military doctor. He saw so many soldiers die of battle wound. So one day he found a culture plate. You know, in study of bacteria, you put a layer of agar on a plate with nutrient, and the bacteria grow on the plate. It was a different color, you know, very colorful, some golden color and so on. Then one morning or one afternoon, I don't know, he found there was a semicircle transparent area. There's no colony because all the different kind of bacteria are killed. And the cell just ruptured and they lost all the colors. That is called contamination. Somebody carelessly did that. And most professors, I believe, myself included, is going to castigate the assistant. Why didn't you be careful? You're wasting my money, you're wasting your own time. Right? No. Fleming react very differently. He said, what on earth could something kill so many different kinds of bacteria indiscriminately? That's what I want. He wants a kind of drug that kills all kinds of bacteria indiscriminately. So what you do, if you recognize that, what would you do next? Try to isolate in that clear area what is there. It turned out to be a fungus. And the agent that's killed the bacteria is called penicillin. The rest is history. Of course, many people say that's not. Fleming is a liar. Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. Okay, but there are other examples. You know, in my publication, I use Edison's example of discovery of phonograph. Okay, I won't repeat. All right. Let's ask all Nikola Tesla. The first time I visited Nikola Tesla Museum in Belgrade, in then Yugoslavia. Okay. I noticed something very strange. In that small museum, there are many portraits of Nikola Tesla. I noticed 3 of them, he took this pose. Okay, could be a coincidence. But when something repeats 3 times, and usually I think maybe it's not a coincidence. What did he try to tell us? I began to speculate. Then I found this picture. Tesla's right here. That's him. I magnify it, same pose. And my host at Belgrade found another for me. He's having a picture with his friend and benefactor, George Westinghouse. Same pose. I think it's not a coincidence. He probably tried to tell us that we must think all the time. He was thinking all the time. Thinking all the time, sometimes without a purpose. And this is a famous story, sorry about this, in covering part of the... Kekuri is a German chemist. He tried to decipher the chemical structure of benzene and dreamed of a snake biting his tail. And that gave him the inspiration of benzene dream. The thinking all the time, even in dream, it's not real dream, it's called hypnagogia. Okay, that's it. So in the field of observation, chance favor only the prepared mind. Thinking all the time, you have to prepare your mind. And psychologists did have one very good term, which I like, called priming of mind. You prepare your mind to a reception for certain information. Once I had a Polish friend came to Detroit, and I was hosting him, visiting museum, and suddenly I asked him in Polish, okay? Speaking Polish in Detroit, and he was at a loss. On a few seconds, he realized I was speaking Polish. Why? Because he's in America. His ears are tuned to English, not Polish. That's why he couldn't recognize Polish. Priming your mind. So at the time, scientists prime their mind to a discovery. How do Fleming prime his mind? Did he prime his mind, say, expect an accident? No, not in word. If it's word, why didn't he just go ahead and ruin the parade? Wouldn't that be easier? No, he must have a vague picture. It has to be in picture. And that picture I call massive death of bacteria. A scene with a lot of bacteria dying. But he did not know the detail of that scene. And is culture parade, contamination the only way? No. I can easily give you an example. If you look under the microscope and all kind of bacteria are not moving, that's massive death. Do you have another scene? I'm sure you can come up with. So this vague scene of massive death. And when you saw it, you recognize it. You get it. A prepared mind must thinking all the time and thinking in picture, anticipating in picture, anticipation. And this is not advanced speculation because somebody asked Newton, Isaac Newton, how did you discover the law of universal gravitation? Newton's answer was by thinking all the time. By thinking all the time. Get it? So, research or discovery is not a 9-to-5 job. It's not. All right. So, I explained serendipity, and I think this is the only version of serendipity that covers all ground. There are other versions, but there's always a problem. Like someone said, serendipity, you must be prepared for something unexpected. How do you prepare for something unexpected? I think it's intriguing, right? So my explanation is if you think in picture, But you cannot expect in what occasion, what time, what occasion. All right, so that's my explanation. Now I want to come to this. Oh my gosh. Time flies. I come to this. You think there are separate, okay, yeah. This book, this is the 10th edition, bestseller. It's initially classified into 7 kinds of talent. You see, logical, mathematical. It's called logical. But good mathematicians think in picture, not just logic, okay? And music is another talent. Spatial intelligence. I claim all these 3 are the same. In fact, all of them are the same. Okay, but I have to convince you. Subsequently, he came up with 14 kinds. And now there are many, many professions. In fact, educators are lamenting that what you learn in school, by the time you get look for a job, it no longer exists, a new kind pops up. How do we prepare for the student for the unexpected profession? Right? That's a topic, very realistic topic. So, with this so many new professions, didn't Howard Gardner, I think he's still active, doesn't he need to invent something called 1,000 multiple intelligence? Let me give you the example. Humans' color vision. Helmholtz, he proposed the 3-color, trichromatic 3-color theory that could cover many different colors, like the rainbow's variation of 7 colors or more. Now the computer can generate million or billion of colors, depending on how many bits. That means we have to change that to multi-billion color theory. No, still trichromatic, still work. The reason is simple. Because our eye has 3 kinds of receptors. So it doesn't work if you multiply it, it just confuses the issue. See, this theory is so popular because I think it's politically correct, but I think it's wrong. In fact, it limits your educational policy. It kind of forever condemns someone into a certain. Sometimes I was joking. If Mozart lost his job because his nemesis, Antonio Salieri, pushed him out of job, he could become a very good computer programmer. He would not need to draw the full diagram. He did it all in his head. He debugged the program in his head. Okay, but that's just a joke. This is what I appreciate. But I didn't have time. To be creative, you have to be like an innocent child. An innocent child sees that the emperor's wears no clothes. But what did thou say? Thou say, the emperor wears a beautiful see-through gown. We still saw that on a daily basis. If you just turn up the television, you saw it. Okay, I won't comment more. What I was looking for is something that, a universal theory of creativity that will cover both humanity and science and technology. Most theory covers science and technology, okay? But I want something to cover humanity as well. But I picked music because it's something that I'm more familiar. And then I came across a letter by Mozart, an obscure letter in 1789. And most Mozart scholars believe it was a fake letter, and I think it's not. It's a genuine letter for my own reason.